Hello and welcome to Let's Enter the Arena. I'm your host, VM Campos. This is the podcast where I talk with a member of the Magic the Gathering community, and we focus on Magic Arena. This week I've got a returning guest who hasn't been on the podcast in a little while. Welcome back, Alan.
Thanks. How's it going?
Pretty good. Now, before we get started, do you have anything you'd like to promote? Any sites or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I can be followed on Twitter. I tweet occasionally there at twitter.com/Brashara, and then on Twitch at twitch.tv/Brashara. So both Brashara on all social media sites, so it's pretty easy to find.
So this week's topic is, we'll talk a little bit about War of the Spark now that it's been out for a while, and I wanted to start off with one particular planeswalker that we're enjoying. So which one at the moment has been a good friend in your deck?
So I started this set. I was like, well, I've been winning with Esper Control for like 2 years. I'm going to try to play Esper Control. And the Planeswalkers do not want you to play Esper Control. At least not in its typical way. I remember I registered 4 copies of Chemist's Insight at our first F&M against Narset Parter of Veils, which says you can't draw more than 1 card a turn. So that was a nightmare. So then I promptly turned to the dark side, and my favorite Planeswalker has been Tybalt, Rakish Instigator.
Very nice, yes.
That card has been unbelievably good.
Finally, redemption for the Instigator?
It's ironic, too, because the original Tybalt, right, everyone talks about how terrible it is, but I think it would actually be really overpowered in this set. Because of the way it plays with Mox Amber. Like, if you look at the Jeskai Planeswalker deck, they were so desperate to turn on Mox Amber, they were playing Fibblethip. If they could just play a Planeswalker on 2 and then later turn it into a dragon with Sarkhan, like, I think the actual first Tybalt that everyone thinks is terrible would have been unbelievable in this set. But new Tybalt has been incredible as well. Obviously, it shuts off life gain. That's great. It makes some imps, which are fine. But, like, the fact that the card is good post-board in almost every matchup is what stood out to me. You generally don't want it in the red mirror, but it's, like, great against every control deck that's trying to gain life against you. It's great against every grindy deck that's trying to manage the game with removal spells. And it is also great against the white aggressive decks, because the Devils just chew them up.
Yeah, people see them... People just see those as like 1/1s, but when they die, they do damage to anything, so it could take down the 2/2 that's coming at you, or do the 1 damage to the Planeswalker or the player. So yeah, those little 1/1 devils are more than they seem.
Yeah, I once had a board. I stalled out on 3 mana, and I drew like 3 Tybalts in a row, playing against mono white. I just like make a devil, new Tybalt, make a devil, new Tybalt, like make a devil, new Tybalt, make a devil. And my opponent attacked with a bunch of creatures, thinking I was dead for sure. And so I blocked everything, and then used all the triggers to shoot down their Benelish Marshal and shrink their whole team.
Yeah.
And then all the damage I had put on their creatures was now lethal, because they were no longer getting +1/+1 from the Benelish Marshal.
Yeah.
And so their whole board fell apart. That card is just, it's the real deal.
Now, I've kind of seen some people joking online about, okay, well, they banned in Standard that one dinosaur that prevented life gain, Ferocidon or something. So are they going to do that with Tybalt? Because he's also got a no life gain clause.
I think this one's a little bit safer than that card. I am one of the people who thinks Ferocidon needs to stay on the ban list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that card was terrible for Standard.
Well, that's what kind of like the evolution of things, like going back to your original Tybalt. Yeah, it was a joke for a long time, and then now that you're saying that it can be very useful nowadays, so it's so interesting about the game of Magic that something that's released at one point, people might have a certain perception of it, and then later on it changes, like Lion's Eye Diamond. Like, it was like, oh, that's a terrible Black Lotus. You have to sacrifice your whole hand. Well, nowadays, with graveyard shenanigans and commanders and all of that, 3 mana for 0 cost, I'll take that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
My pick is more of a limited Planeswalker. Now, I'm a degenerate Dimir player that I love to mill people and do card disdraw from their hand, card disruption. So Ashiok Dream Renderer is one that I'm enjoying in limited, because if he can't be answered, or if they can't be answered, that's 5 activations of 4 cards every turn. That's 20 cards that you mill them, and I kind of saw the light with that character when someone did it to me the first time. I'm like, this might be an interesting thing in limited. Obviously, just in limited, maybe not in a regular constructed, but that's one I'm liking at the moment when I can pick them up on limited. Well, on the next topic, what other card besides a Planeswalker are you enjoying in War of the Spark at the moment?
So, I think that my favorite card, if I had to pick, would be in limited, even though I'm much more of a constructed player. Bonds of Insight is so much fun to cast in limited. Oh my goodness. The blue and 3 colorless sorcery where everybody mills 4, and then you get 2 instants or sorceries back. Drafting blue-black control is so much fun in this set. Like, Narset feels like a mythic when you play it. Like, when you play it and activate it, and you're like, I get to do this again. Like, that card, and maybe that's the neat thing about War of the Spark with a lot of these Planeswalkers, even though they're uncommon and they're at an uncommon power level, like, sort of the effects you're getting feel like you have a mythic rare. Like, and so that's just been a blast.
I like that they did this cycle. Every color gets a particular bond. Just for the Vorthos of it, I kind of like that they do cycles. And I listened to Mark Rosewater's podcast about just game theory and all of that. And one of the concepts is completion. And so for every color to have a bond that's in its part of the color pie, I think that's, on a level fun. Were you following much of the story recently about all the shenanigans going on?
So they put out the book about the battle on Ravnica, but they didn't release all the stuff that leads up to it.
Yeah.
So I haven't read it yet because I want to read it in order, and I don't know why they didn't release it in order.
Yeah.
So I know kind of the Cliff's Notes, but no, I haven't gotten into the details yet. Because I'd rather experience it kind of chronologically.
Yeah, definitely here as well. I have not read the book, and I've picked up the story points from the cards, which kudos to Wizards for releasing their preview cards in sequence. I thought that was interesting. And they've started to release some of those stories from on the mothership, so I'm trying to catch up with them here and there as well, but it's a really deep well of story that we can get into just, from my understanding of the book. It's just what's happening at the battle, but of course there was a lot of lead up to it, so I can't wait to get into that.
Yeah, the book is literally just the battle.
So my particular card, I'm trying to put together a mono white cats deck. So if people play me, they know that I like to play with cats. So I've got Selesnya cats or mono white cats. And it's not a big power deck, but when I was part of the Wizards streamer, the early streamer event, I got an account sponsored by Wizards, and I got to play War of the Spark. I tried to put together that kind of deck, which was Charmed Stray plus a Johnny's Pridemate plus, let me see, what's that one other spirit that flies? Grateful Apparition. That one also proliferates. And then I put in there Honorary Cat Oketra, and Gideon as the crazy cat lady wrangling them all. It was pretty fun.
Gideon's the crazy cat lady?
Yep. He had the Charmed Stray, the Pridemate, the Oketra, and I think those are the only cats of note. Okay, there's Feral Maka, I guess. There was another Maka or something, but it was in red.
There's like a red cat too.
Yeah.
I think isn't there also like a zombie cat?
The zombie cat, yeah, there is Dread Malkin.
An eternal cat, but you probably have to go black, and that's probably tough.
Any general thoughts on Modern Horizons before we dig down a little into it?
So Modern Horizons is one of these sets. It looks really cool. I think this set looks really, really cool. But of the whole set, I feel like maybe only 20 or 30 of the cards needed to be placed into Modern. So I wonder if this could have... I don't know, it's tough, right? Like, I'm not a game designer. I don't know how these pieces put together. But, like, I don't know how much the set's going to cost to draft, but I'm sure however much it costs, I'm going to wish I could draft more of it.
Yeah.
Like, this set looks awesome. I want to play this snow deck every day until I'm so old that I can't play Magic anymore because my hands don't work.
So you're trying to summon Merit-Lage?
Oh, I mean, I don't even want to summon Merit-Lage. I want to pay a blue and a green for a 1/1 flash that lets me draw a card and it has Death Touch. And I just want to do that until my opponent gives up.
The only problem is getting everyone to agree on its pronunciation.
Oh, yeah. Let me see. Let me look at... What's the name of this card again? Let me
Something Coatl.
Yeah, let me see if I can pronounce it. Ice Fang Quaddle. Yeah, okay. I had to do... The other card that looks sweet is right next to it on the spoiler list. Hogak Arisen Necropolis. The card you can only cast without spending mana.
Yeah. Yeah, there seems to be a little bit for everyone. If you kind of go into it in terms of, this is a deck with a lot of fun things, and there's some nostalgia to it, and I'll find some pieces for some fun decks, I think it's a great set. I think the price of it, yeah, to draft it's gonna, they're doing the premium price per booster, unfortunately, and this also seems like another complicated set in Limited, especially because you've just got so many things. It's like the best of hits from so many sets that you've got to contend with.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of new cards that are very powerful. I love these sets where you get to play. I love cube drafting. I love when you get to build a draft deck that is about as powerful as a constructed deck, but it's not a constructed deck. I think that's always been a blast, and this set definitely at that power level.
Mm-hmm. Now let me ask you something about that. If there is a set that has a 3 or 4 cycle or different arts for their basic lands, do you do the 3 different or 4 different lands, or do you just keep that one land?
I will only play with matching art.
Okay.
For my lands. Currently, I play with the same lands too. So I currently play with unglued lands because I think they are gorgeous.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's sort of a weird combination. I play with, or sorry, not unglued, but unstable. I play with unstable islands and unstable mountains. I play with foil Amonkhet full art swamps. I play with and sometimes this gets very, very bizarre because I play with the unglued plains and the unhinged, I think it is, forests are my favorite lands.
That's nice. That's definitely visually interesting, and having those particular more nostalgic sets, that's pretty cool too. I was just organizing my my binder of Mirage cards, and I was looking at all of their lands there, and they have in Plains they have 2 panorama concepts. They have a day and a night cycle of Plains. It's 2 halves of a day scene and 2 halves of a night scene, so it's 4 total Plains in that Mirage set. So I think that's kind of interesting that if you've got all those cards out, you have this really cool panorama that's night and day, and they're all Plains. That
does sound awesome. I'm a big fan of stuff like that.
Yeah, connecting.
If your lands make a picture, yeah, that would be something that I would really enjoy.
They did that also in that same set with the forests. It's one big panorama, all 4 forests. If you line them up, they all line up into a big panorama. However, the graphic designer in me, I have a degree in graphic design, I see that they kind of cropped things a little bit weird, because you see part of one tree trunk in one side of the card and a little bit too much of the same one on the next card. So I'm like, these don't line up properly.
How old are they?
They are from 1996.
Yeah, I'm sure they were doing their best.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Oh my goodness, that's really cool though. I love, as long as people put thought into their cards, I always enjoy hearing what thought they put into them.
Yeah, before the recent price spikes, I got a bunch of snow-covered lands from Ice Age, from the first Ice Age, to put into some of my decks. And I'm like, well, when I first played with those cards in 1995, I loved them. And 20 years later, I put them into my modern decks, and I still love them. And then people look at them and compliment them, and they just stand out. They've got the old card borders, and they've got the old kind of style of art, and they're nostalgic.
And
but
now
they're
everyone
also...
will think you are fabulously wealthy.
Well, like I'm saying, back before the price spikes, they weren't that expensive.
Yeah, I mean, like the islands were like $1 a piece, right, or a little bit more than that.
Somewhere
I
around
never
there,
bought
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Now I'm
That's
kicking
right.
myself. Now I'm kicking myself for it. Should have just bought them.
Well, you never know what will be popular or not. For some reason, I was also organizing my Homelands cards, and that set is like kind of like objectively the worst set. And it has, however, a common, it's a rare card called Wall of Kelp, and it actually makes 0/1 blue kelp tokens or something. And
Yes.
I just saw that card, like in the last 2 months or something, spiked up for like $15, and it was like 10 cents for decades.
Wall of Kelp. Yep. And that would be because it makes tokens with Defender, and it has Defender. So your good friend Arcades Saboth from M19, Arcades the Strategist, says whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card.
Oh, okay.
And Wall of Kelp is the only Defender that makes Defenders. So it draws
Interesting.
so many cards in that deck.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, and it's blue, so there's Arcades colors. So yeah, that makes total sense.
Yep. Commander card.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Is there anything you'd like to promote again?
No, I think I'm good. I got it the one time. I'll have more promoting to do once I'm actually content creating again.
Sure thing. I'll put your links in the show notes and get people raring or chomping at the bit to go check out your stuff.
Well, thank you very much.
As for me, you can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/vmcampos, or YouTube. I stream every Saturday, 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Pacific Time at gaming.youtube.com/vmcamposjr. Or subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/vmcampos. I actually send people vintage Magic cards. If they go to the $2 tier, or even at the $1 tier, people get cool stuff. So check me out there, or just follow for free to keep up with everything I do. Well, thank you so much, Alan. Hope to see you in a future episode.
Me too.
This has been VM Campos, and I'll see you in the arena.